Samuel L. Jackson shocks the court, accusing P. Diddy of running a secret illegal gambling empire involving top celebrities and dark threats. The entertainment world was rocked to its core when explosive allegations surfaced, accusing P. Diddy of running a sprawling network of illegal gambling rings involving some of the industry's biggest names. The news broke like a storm, sending shockwaves through Hollywood and music circles alike. At the center of this maelstrom stood none other than Samuel L. Jackson, a towering figure in film and culture who shocked everyone by stepping forward as the key accuser. Samuel's voice cut through the frenzy as he revealed the dark side of the glitz and glamour. Behind closed doors, P. Diddy wasn't just a music mogul or celebrity icon. According to Samuel, he was the mastermind behind a covert empire of high-stakes gambling, secrecy, and intimidation. Celebrities, executives, and powerful figures were entangled in a web of bets, threats, and control, all orchestrated to maintain dominance and fatten pockets. The public was stunned. Fans struggled to reconcile the image of Diddy as an entertainment titan with the shadowy allegations now making headlines. Media outlets scrambled for answers. Social media exploded with heated debates, and whispers of corruption filled industry backchannels. Questions swirled. How far did the gambling empire extend? Who else was involved? And most importantly, was justice finally within reach? As the scandal unfolded, Samuel L. Jackson prepared to take the stand, ready to expose the truth and face down one of the most powerful men in entertainment. The stakes were high, the risks immense, but Samuel was determined. This was more than a personal battle. It was a fight to shine a light on corruption and demand accountability in a world where power often goes unchecked. Samuel L. Jackson was never one to shy away from speaking his mind. Known for his commanding presence both on and off the screen, he carried with him a reputation of integrity, strength, and an unyielding commitment to justice. But even for a man of his stature, the story he was about to tell was dangerous, one that threatened to unravel a hidden world of power and deception that few dared to expose. The journey into the underbelly of the entertainment industry's gambling scene began months earlier. Samuel had always been aware of the high-stakes parties, exclusive clubs, and whispered rumors about the darker side of Hollywood. But it wasn't until a close friend, an insider who had long operated in the industry's shadows, came forward with a disturbing tale that Samuel realized the true extent of what was happening. The insider revealed a secret network of illegal gambling rings where millions of dollars changed hands nightly, fueled by bets on everything from underground fight matches to rigged casino games, all run by P. Diddy and his associates. This was no ordinary scandal. It was a carefully concealed empire where loyalty was bought and dissent was crushed. At first, Samuel was hesitant. The implications were massive. To challenge P. Diddy meant confronting one of the most powerful and well-connected figures in entertainment. But the more he listened, the more he understood the necessity of speaking out. The stakes were not just money. They were lives, careers, and the very integrity of the industry itself. Samuel's involvement grew deeper as he began piecing together the puzzle. Through late-night meetings with former employees, security personnel, and even disgruntled celebrities, he collected stories of coercion, threats, and blackmail. Many had fallen victim to a system designed to silence them. Some feared retaliation. Others had already been forced out of the industry. He uncovered accounts of lavish private events where high-profile stars were lured into the gambling network. These gatherings were cloaked in secrecy. No cameras, no press. Just an elite circle playing a dangerous game where the rules were dictated by Diddy and his inner circle. Failure to comply wasn't just frowned upon. It came with real consequences. Samuel also discovered how P. Diddy maintained control. It wasn't just about money. It was psychological warfare. Whispers of blacklists, lost contracts, and career sabotage haunted those who dared to question or resist. The mogul's reach extended far beyond the stage or studio, into every facet of a celebrity's life. One chilling story came from a rising star who had tried to break free. After refusing to place a bet as demanded, the artist found their contract mysteriously terminated, their name erased from promotional campaigns. The message was clear: dissent was costly. Despite the dangers, Samuel's resolve only hardened. He saw the faces of those trapped in this web, their hopes, their fears, and knew that silence was complicity. The public deserved to know the truth. The build-up to the trial was relentless. Media outlets ran headlines speculating about the scope of the scandal. P. Diddy's legal team vehemently denied all accusations, branding them as jealous fabrications. But with mounting evidence and growing public pressure, the wheels of justice turned inexorably forward. As the courtroom prepared to open, Samuel L. Jackson stood ready, not just as an accuser, but as a beacon of courage. His testimony would expose not just a man, but a system that had thrived in shadows for too long. This was the beginning of a battle that would shake the very foundations of the entertainment industry, where the brightest stars and darkest secrets collided in a fight for truth and justice. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as Samuel L. Jackson took the stand. Cameras flashed, reporters leaned forward, and the entire entertainment world seemed to hold its breath. The stakes could not have been higher, not just for P. Diddy, but for everyone whose lives had been touched by the hidden empire of illegal gambling that was about to be exposed. Samuel's presence commanded attention. His voice, steady but filled with quiet fire, began to unravel the complex web of deceit and power that had been carefully concealed for years. He described the sprawling network of underground gambling rings, painting a vivid picture of secrecy, influence, and intimidation that went far beyond what the public had imagined. He told of exclusive private events where celebrities, executives, and wealthy elites gathered to place massive bets on everything from underground fight matches to manipulated casino games. These events were invitation only, protected by layers of security and strict confidentiality agreements designed to keep prying eyes away. Samuel recounted how P. Diddy was at the center of it all, not just as a participant, but as the orchestrator and ultimate beneficiary. He described how Diddy's control extended into every corner of the network, from managing the flow of bets and payouts to enforcing loyalty through subtle threats and strategic pressure. But Samuel's testimony wasn't just about the money. It was about the human cost. He shared personal accounts from those who had been coerced or threatened, artists who had lost contracts, careers derailed by whispered blacklists, and lives disrupted by fear and intimidation. These weren't distant rumors. They were real stories of pain and resilience. One moment was particularly striking. Samuel spoke of a young actress who had come to him in tears, desperate and isolated, after refusing to participate in the gambling ring. Within weeks, her career had collapsed. Roles vanished, endorsements pulled, and her reputation tarnished. The message was clear. Compliance was mandatory. Dissent was deadly. Throughout his testimony, Samuel emphasized the pervasive atmosphere of fear. He explained how P. Diddy's empire relied not only on money, but on control, psychological manipulation that ensured silence and obedience. The court heard how those who tried to break free faced threats ranging from legal action to personal harm. As Samuel laid out the details, the courtroom was gripped by the sheer scale of the operation. Witnesses corroborated his statements, presenting financial records, intercepted communications, and secret recordings that confirmed the existence of the illegal gambling network. The evidence painted a damning portrait of corruption and abuse of power. The defense tried to discredit Samuel, questioning his motives and credibility. They argued that the allegations were the product of jealousy and rivalry, attempts to undermine a successful entrepreneur. But Samuel's unwavering demeanor and the mounting evidence made it clear. This was no smear campaign. It was a battle for justice. The testimony revealed the inner workings of an industry long believed to be glamorous and untouchable. Behind the scenes, it was a world of shadowy deals, ruthless competition, and hidden dangers. Samuel's voice was a clarion call for transparency and accountability. As the day wore on, the emotional weight of the testimony began to take its toll. Samuel spoke candidly about the personal risks he had taken by coming forward, acknowledging the threats and attempts to silence him. Yet he remained resolute, driven by a commitment to expose the truth and protect others from similar fates. The courtroom atmosphere grew tense as more witnesses stepped forward: former insiders, security staff, and other celebrities who had suffered under the weight of the gambling empire. Each story added depth and urgency to Samuel's testimony, painting a broader picture of systemic abuse. By the end of the day, it was clear that the trial was more than a legal proceeding. It was a reckoning. The entertainment industry faced a mirror, forced to confront uncomfortable truths about power, greed, and corruption. Samuel L. Jackson's testimony had shattered the silence. The truth was out, and the world was watching. The courtroom was thick with tension as Part 3 of the trial began. With Samuel L. Jackson's powerful testimony still fresh in everyone's minds, the focus shifted to the mountain of evidence that prosecutors had painstakingly gathered. This was the moment when the story would either gain undeniable credibility or begin to unravel under the weight of counterarguments. Prosecutors presented a trove of documents: bank records showing suspicious transfers, encrypted communications between P. Diddy and his associates, and audio recordings capturing conversations about bets, payoffs, and handling problems. The courtroom was silent as the evidence painted a damning picture of a meticulously organized illegal gambling empire that had operated for years under the radar. Among the most striking exhibits were text messages between Diddy and various celebrities, detailing dates, stakes, and arrangements for secret gambling events. These messages revealed not just involvement, but coordination, with Diddy positioned firmly as the architect and controller. Witnesses took the stand: former employees, security personnel, and even disillusioned insiders from Diddy's circle. Many spoke under oath about the intense pressure to keep silent, the threats made to those who considered speaking out, and the rewards offered for loyalty. Their stories added layers of detail and urgency to the prosecution's case. One former event coordinator testified about an occasion when a celebrity refused to participate in the gambling ring. According to the witness, the refusal led to immediate consequences: canceled contracts, withheld payments, and a chilling message that non-compliance would result in professional exile. The witness's voice trembled as they recalled the fear that permeated the industry. The defense pushed back hard. They attempted to frame the evidence as circumstantial, suggesting that communications were taken out of context or part of legitimate business dealings. Lawyers portrayed Samuel L. Jackson as a disgruntled figure, implying jealousy and personal vendettas motivated his accusations. Cross-examinations grew heated, with defense attorneys probing inconsistencies and demanding proof beyond reasonable doubt. However, the prosecution's evidence was backed by forensic financial experts and cybersecurity specialists who demonstrated the authenticity of the digital records. As more celebrities' names surfaced in the documents and testimonies, the courtroom became a spotlight on Hollywood's darker side. The industry's elite watched nervously as reputations hung in the balance, and fans grappled with the revelations. Behind closed doors, whispers spread of secret meetings and damage control efforts by Diddy's legal team. Strategies to discredit witnesses, challenge evidence, and sway public opinion were underway. But the tide of public sentiment was shifting. Calls for transparency and accountability grew louder. Throughout the trial, Samuel remained a steadfast figure. Despite the defense's attempts to undermine him, his credibility was bolstered by the consistency of his testimony and the corroborating evidence. His courage in facing down one of entertainment's most powerful figures inspired others to come forward. The prosecutors ended Part 3 by calling on financial analysts who mapped the flow of money from illegal gambling profits into legitimate businesses, revealing a complex money laundering scheme. This demonstrated how deeply entwined the gambling network was with the broader entertainment economy. As the courtroom adjourned for the day, the weight of the evidence lingered in the air. The fight for justice was far from over, but the cracks in P. Diddy's defenses were growing. The stage was set for a dramatic and high-stakes conclusion. The courtroom was electric with tension as Part 4 unfolded. The battle between the prosecution and defense had reached a fever pitch, with emotions running high and stakes higher than ever. Every word spoken, every piece of evidence introduced, seemed to tip the scales in this high-profile clash of power, truth, and reputation. Samuel L. Jackson remained at the forefront, his testimony now delving into the personal toll this scandal had taken, not just on him, but on countless others caught in the shadow of P. Diddy's gambling empire. His voice carried a weight of experience and conviction as he recounted the stories of those whose lives had been devastated. He spoke of friends and colleagues who had been coerced into silence, their careers derailed or destroyed because they dared to resist. He described the pervasive atmosphere of fear that had forced many talented artists and professionals into hiding or exile from the industry. The courtroom was silent, hanging on every word. Samuel's narrative was interrupted briefly by the defense's cross-examination, which aimed to chip away at his credibility. But the actor's calm confidence and unwavering demeanor stood firm, revealing a man who had faced far greater battles and emerged stronger. The prosecution then introduced a new wave of witnesses, industry insiders and experts, who detailed the intricate mechanisms by which P. Diddy's network maintained its grip. From manipulating contracts to intimidating potential whistleblowers, the operation was a finely tuned machine designed to suppress dissent and maximize profit. One witness, a former manager, testified to having witnessed meetings where threats were made against those who posed a risk to the empire. Another described covert payments and hush money exchanged to keep secrets buried deep. The courtroom was gripped by the chilling accounts. As the trial progressed, the defense grew increasingly desperate, launching aggressive attacks on the witnesses and evidence. Attempts to portray the accusations as fabrications, jealousy-driven vendettas, or misunderstandings were met with mounting skepticism from the jury and public alike. Midway through Part 4, the prosecution unveiled a key turning point, a confidential recording that captured P. Diddy's voice discussing plans to handle a problematic artist who had threatened to expose the gambling ring. The courtroom gasped as the audio played, the unmistakable tone of power and menace filling the room. Samuel's face hardened as the recording echoed around the chamber. The defense scrambled to question its authenticity, but forensic experts confirmed it was genuine and unaltered. This revelation shifted the trial's momentum dramatically, casting a long shadow over the defendant. Beyond the courtroom drama, the broader impact of the trial began to emerge. Media coverage intensified, sponsors reconsidered partnerships, and other celebrities faced increased scrutiny. The industry was at a crossroads, forced to confront uncomfortable truths and demand change. Samuel, aware of the historic nature of the moment, spoke passionately during closing arguments about the need for accountability and reform. His plea was not just for justice against one man, but for a system that allowed such abuses to flourish. He called on his fellow artists and industry leaders to stand united against corruption. The jury listened intently, the weight of the evidence and testimonies hanging heavily. As Part 4 drew to a close, it was clear that this trial had become a defining chapter in entertainment history, a story of power challenged, secrets unveiled, and the pursuit of truth. Outside the courthouse, crowds gathered, some cheering Samuel's courage, others anxiously awaiting the verdict. The world watched, knowing that whatever the outcome, the reverberations would be felt far beyond this courtroom. The courtroom was silent as the jury filed back in, the weight of the moment palpable. After weeks of intense testimony, emotional revelations, and heated legal battles, the verdict was finally about to be delivered. Samuel L. Jackson sat poised, his gaze steady and resolute, knowing the gravity of what lay ahead, not just for P. Diddy, but for the entire entertainment world. The foreperson stood, voice firm and clear. "We, the jury, find the defendant." The room held its breath. As the verdict echoed through the chamber, shockwaves rippled instantly. The decision marked a turning point, a public reckoning that exposed the depths of a shadowy empire built on greed, control, and fear. The verdict confirmed many of the allegations Samuel had brought to light, validating the courage it took to stand against such immense power. For P. Diddy, the ruling was devastating. The once untouchable mogul now faced the consequences of actions that had long been whispered about in hushed circles. His empire, built over decades, was shaken to its core. Legal battles and fallout would continue, but the foundation of his public image had been forever altered. Outside the courtroom, the media frenzy reached a fever pitch. Fans and critics alike debated fiercely, some expressing disbelief, others relief that justice had been served. The story dominated headlines worldwide, sparking conversations about corruption, accountability, and the true cost of fame. Samuel L. Jackson, despite the victory, remained reflective. He knew the battle was far from over. The systemic issues revealed during the trial would require ongoing vigilance and reform. But this moment was a significant victory for truth and integrity. In interviews after the trial, Samuel spoke candidly about the personal toll of the journey, the threats, the isolation, and the pressure to remain silent. Yet, he also emphasized the importance of courage and resilience. "Change begins when people refuse to look away," he told reporters. "This verdict sends a message. No one is above the law." The entertainment industry responded cautiously, but with signs of transformation. Several major companies announced new policies aimed at transparency and ethical conduct. Conversations about power dynamics and exploitation gained renewed urgency, inspiring artists and executives alike to advocate for change. For many artists who had suffered in silence, the trial's outcome brought hope and validation. Support networks formed, and initiatives to protect vulnerable talent gained momentum. The trial had ignited a movement, not just against one man, but against the culture that enabled abuse. As the dust settled, Samuel reflected on the broader implications. The courtroom drama was more than a headline. It was a catalyst. The fight for justice had illuminated dark corners and challenged the status quo. It reminded the world that behind the glitter and fame were real people, often caught in dangerous webs of power. Though the verdict closed one chapter, the story of reform, accountability, and healing was just beginning. Samuel's stand had opened doors for many, shining a light that would not easily be extinguished. In the quiet moments that followed, Samuel looked toward the future with cautious optimism. The road ahead would be difficult, but the journey was necessary. Truth, he knew, was the first step toward true change. And as the world watched, one undeniable truth remained. Courage can topple giants, and justice, though slow and fraught, can prevail.